the biggest mistake that I find that people make when it comes to integrating AI or any tool is not having true clarity on what you want your client experience to be like. And because that's the starting point, like knowing like what are the things that you really want or needing to get from a client, what are the things you need for it to do, like how to optimize it, then you can see exactly like where are gaps. Like, I wanna work with you too. However, and it's like, I get it. So,
Right.
all of those things, but yeah.
Like, how bad do you want it? So when you go into those conversations, we're just gonna hop right into it. So when you go into those conversations with founders, like VPs, presidents, like what is that conversation like? Let's just give an example. Maybe they touch base with you like last quarter and we're at the top of the year. Like, how does that conversation go when you follow up with them?
Okay, so for me, I every year inside of my event business, I actually run reports pretty much every quarter, to leverage. So usually the reports I run are typically for that quarter the year before. So I can actually stay ahead of re-engaging people that may have worked with me in Q4 of 2025, in 2024. I'm going to reach out to them for Q4 of 2025. So considering that we're now recording this and it's Q1 of 2026, what I actually did is I ran two reports. One report showing all the people that worked with me throughout 2025, but also individuals that reached out to my business in Q1 of 2025 that booked and did not book, just so I knew what my intention was around those conversations. So for people that I did work with last year, I actually inside of my business, I already was looking to reshift some of the structure. So I kind of was teasing that for the last year, saying, hey, this is an option, but it was not mandatory. So with me, when it comes to re-engaging, I am one, I consider myself a hunter. I use that term a lot. Like I'm not typically hoping that people reach out to me. A lot of times, especially with what I do inside of my event business, I know who my ideal clients are. So I do cold calls and things of that nature. And that might not be for everyone, but it's is ultimately what provides the best result inside of that side of my business, which is a little bit different when I have my consulting company. That is different. Like the needs and the frequency are going to shift depending on why someone decided to work with me. So usually I like to run reports so that I know exactly with whom am I reaching out to. And depending on the data that I pull, that helps me to know why I'm talking to them instead of sending blanketed like conversations. Like I do have email lists or newsletters, but that to me is just to stay at forefront of their mind where I do a separate thing where it's intentional communication. So if I did work with someone like in Q1 of last year, I sent them an email saying, hey, I just want to let you know this is something that we're going to be instituting moving forward. I would love to be able to get on the phone and talk to you, and just see exactly what you're doing going into this upcoming year. And I think there's nothing wrong with reaching out to people that you worked with before, because I feel like that will ultimately help you of understanding what are their problems now, so that you could actually be selling and pitching something that they need because their problem doesn't go away. No one's problem in their business goes away. How they may interact with your business is what differs. And it helps you of understanding, okay, do I go forward with this type of client or do I pivot? It just gives a lot more clarity instead of guessing, just having intentional conversations. That's why I am a big fan of proactive research to be able to use inside of my business to create a strategy, like a more intentional strategy, I guess. That's the best way to put
Like,
it.
if you guys are just tuning in, I just had to hop right into it because I know like that's the best stuff when the cameras are not rolling. So I just hit record on Jess. But this is Jess Gray. I've been knowing you for a couple years now. And how I met Jess was I was using HoneyBook at the time when I was doing like consulting and stuff. And I'm like, to what Jess is saying, how can I automate this process, right? And what she's talking about is a very strategic approach about reapproaching accounts from past clients, current clients, email campaigns, like certain drifts, certain touch points, so that activity matters and can convert. So I definitely wanted to give the audience some background of our relationship and what you do, but let's dive a little more into that. Like when I look at who's like you that have a specific skill set, and I'm not just saying that like that's only one bucket that you fit in, but when you're a master at like strategy, operations, automations. Like when I think of Jess Gray, I'm like, oh, okay, automation. In the future, when I'm doing a project and I need something, I will hit Jess up like, okay, cool. Like, what is it? Cool. Let's get it done because I know she's an expert at that. Now, let's take a step back. Like, how did you get to where you are now? Can you give us a little backstory?
Yeah, like a part of me, like I kind of thought you was going to ask that question, and a part of me wants to say that the analytical side of me is something that I went to school for. I think that I've always naturally been inquisitive. Like my mom growing up, like I was that kid that'd be like, but why? But not like the annoying, but why? It was just like I was always just like I'll be sitting and like, like why is the sky blue? But when we're in this, what? But when we're in a plane you see clouds and they're white. Like I was just always that child that didn't just see things at face value. And so just growing up, that was something that was really nurtured inside of me. And then of course I went to college and things of that nature. I did work in corporate America. And I love the company that I worked with. Like it's not the debt. When I started my business, it wasn't, oh, because 'cause I don't even know if Instagram was around. I know Instagram was not around. So there was no like, oh, I could drink Mai Tais on the beachfront. Like I didn't have any of that just like actually get me to want to get into doing entrepreneurship. That was never the reason. I just left because my mom was battling cancer and different things were going on in my life personally that did not align with that flexibility at that time period in corporate America. But the thing about it is that inside of my job, I did have to do some analytical stuff. I had to do problem solving if something wasn't working. I did chemical sales, not sexy, probably very different than, not probably, it's very different in certain aspects of what I do. It's just a different industry. But the ability to have clients, ability to problem solve, the ability to do all those things actually probably was that groundwork to help me with thriving in what I do now. And then I started doing the consulting stuff really in the pandemic because uh, I never was one to think like, okay, I learned something, let me coach. Like, again, this is all in I feel like the pandemic either has piqued interest for people, like because out of necessity, to be honest, out of necessity, they had to. But for me, like prior to the pandemic, I was learning and growing to be a leader, learning and growing to have understand strategy, sales, and things of that nature because I had my own business. And I knew I needed to learn those things because of probably my previous years in corporate America. Like that's the only way you grow a market. Like back in the day when I worked in corporate, they literally like say, Jesse, we need you to grow this market in Idaho.
I want to take a pause for a second and talk about your confidence, right? You got the experience, the results, the credibility, but when it comes to putting your voice out there, fear creeps in. Who am I to do this? Does that sound familiar? That's imposter syndrome, and it's keeping you small. My coaching is about breaking through that, helping you turn your expertise into content, conversation, and coaching that builds real influence in your industry. So if you're done hiding behind titles and ready to lead with your story, head over to connectingwithcreatives.com/coaching and let's get started. I'll see you soon.
I can't remember if they gave me a list. They may or may not have given me a list. They probably gave me a list because that's the only way I would have gotten the data. But they would just give me a general list, and I had to actually qualify and disqualify people. So I had to learn like which clients would be a good fit, which ones weren't. How to the ones that were like bigger clients than what I was supposed to handle to be able to also push that on to someone else that actually could go to those locations to support those people. So a lot of what I learned from my previous work experience did help me with understanding like something is wrong. And I think that sometimes with small business owners, and when I say small business owners, that is not a job. That is honestly like I'm talking about SBA standards. I always got to give people that disclaimer.
For sure.
You can have a $5 million business with two people and still and you're by SBA standards, you're still a small business. Like I tell people, like it's not a jab. But with small business, is that if you've never happened, and yeah, exactly. And so that's the biggest thing with some small businesses. If you haven't had that experience or those exposures, you may not know that you need to have these touch points. You may not understand why certain types of communication is necessary. So when with me learning a lot of my previous experiences and what really gets me excited, like with learning and being naturally inquisitive, that actually helped me with being able to do the consulting and the strategy. It wasn't because I thought about it, to be honest. Like, I don't know if, I can't say, like, if the pandemic ever never happened, would I had gone this route eventually? Maybe, maybe not. Was I thinking about it? Absolutely not. It's just because I had the time to sit down and think and talk to people that I realized that the way that my brain works, it can be an asset to other people if they want me to support them.
Now, how do you use your asset, which is your brain, your strategic perspective, right? How do you, I know you have a framework, you declutter, simplify, maximize. Come on, implement. I've been researching, right? But how do you use that framework with AI as a tool to help your clients? Hey, let me give you the scenario. I'm a small business owner. I make less than $10 million a year, and I have a digital coaching company. Like, what would you recommend for someone like me or that person?
Yeah, I think the first part of any flow, and when we work together is like I always recommend people to do process mapping. And, like, really think through because the biggest mistake that I find that people make when it comes to integrating a CRM, be it email marketing, be it AI or any tool, is not having true clarity on what you want your client experience to be like. And because that's the starting point, like knowing like what are the things that you really want or needing to get from a client, what are the things you need for it to do, like how to optimize it, then you can see exactly like where are gaps. Because I feel that when we don't understand, like, truly what we want our client experience to be, what are some of the things that we might be doing manually? Where are some of the possible opportunities for misunderstandings between you and the client or even internally? Like, it's best to first just start from the basics of really going to like pen and paper and just really fleshing things out because there's all types of apps out there. There's not a shortage of technology out there. And if you haven't heard of something specific, it's just chances are they're not doing a great job of marketing it or it's just really noisy. So it's hard to find them specifically. So with all of that being available here in 2026, instead of just getting these new platforms and using it, integrating AI, if you can't actually answer why what are you gonna use AI for? How are you actually going to even be able to implement it? And I think that that's the biggest problem because like I'm working with a client right now, and they is a big team. And the thing about it is they're having me build out structures and flows in their business, which is great. But then from an outsider, I can tell that there's some disconnects. So it's hard for even me to build something when there's a disconnect internally. And what most people do when I'm not in the picture is that they're trying to build it out with that same non-clear mindset. And then it's just like wanting to do it. Even right now through Honey, but they are doing mentorship programs. And so someone was assigned to me as a mentor, a mentee. Great. I was excited. We had a conversation and she's like, I was thinking about restructuring, da 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 da. And we had this good conversation. And I actually had her go do homework. What actually worked well in your business last year? What did people mostly purchase from you? Like, where were these leads coming from? Like, I asked her all these questions that she didn't have an answer to, which is very common. But her whole focus with working with me was to be able to help set up her honey book. But you can't answer those questions.
Right.
And
Right.
and and when we finished, she was like, It's a no-brainer. And she's like, "I never," she's like, "and it's crazy that I didn't think to know these things before trying to fix a system that I don't even know what is not working." And that's what gets in the way, for someone to integrate AI. Like I got ChatGPT. Okay, and I'm using Zapier. Okay, and I mean, like there's all kinds of platforms, but if you don't know why and how, then it's very hard to be able to implement anything.
Can you give me an example of an automation or a strategy you use to help free up some revenue for one of your clients?
Like right now, the one project I am working on right now, I am not doing the Asana build out for them, but I am giving them some resources for Asana. I used to be really well versed in Asana, but in the last 6 months, I do not know what's been going on with their developers. They've been pushing out so much stuff. I'm like, I I can't.
You gotta fill 'em back.
I was like, "I can't keep up with it." I'm like, I feel like I'm back at ground zero. I mean, I'm even a Asana partner at that, and it's just I feel like I'm at ground zero again because they've been doing a lot of new innovation. But I think that's also a part too with some of these platforms, and the reality of a lot of the platforms, why they have so much innovation is they are honestly fighting for the same dollar right now. And so what I mean by that for anyone that's listening is that there's only X amount of small businesses that are spending money on tech and apps. And there's only a certain amount that are going to spend over a certain, like they have like a tech stack or will invest in a tech stack. And that's going to differ from industry to industry as well. So if they know that, okay, people are looking at ways to cut back when their operation costs, because our operation costs have gone up a lot. So if you have people having to look at, I only make this amount, I only can put this amount towards my apps. It's not because I don't want to, it's just because it doesn't make sense financially right now. It may take me a little bit longer, but I don't want to lose that amount of money towards using that app, even though I know. So it's just like it's one of those I wish, like, or wish list things. So once I hit this level, I'm going to get this app. I'm going to hit this app. And that's what's happening is that the amount of people that surged into entrepreneurship in the earlier years of the pandemic, a lot of them did not make it out, and that's fine because that's the lifeline of entrepreneurship. A lot of people don't know. A lot of companies do not make it past 2 to 3 years. And outside of those two, the ones that do make it out is 2 to 3 years, they're not making it past 5. And there's been a lot of volatility inside of the market depending on who you're serving. So with all of these changes are going on, a lot of tech are having to figure out how do we offset the revenue that they got a surge on, between 2020 and 2022. Because I know a lot of people like it's only one direction and it's up. That's as someone that's been in business for 15 years, that's absolutely not true. So they all of these apps and platforms and technology, that's why I feel that some of them are increasing their rates, because they're trying. I mean, it's all P&L. As much as we don't want, I don't like when things go up. But I get it. Like it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, most businesses find themselves in a position if they're present to their numbers and their data, they're trying to figure out how do we continue to get a specific kind of profit margin. Is it by increasing the amount that we're charging for our services? Or are we going to reduce our workforce, which that's is why, again, we're seeing all of these layoffs, which I feel like are going to continue to occur, just because we're at that 5-year mark.
Absolutely, and we'll land the plane here. People, like you said, business owners, people that's trying to create a side hustle, whatever. You don't need to pay for a CRM. Like you can keep it straight free, Google Sheets, Google Forms. You can do all of those things until you're at a point to where you can pay for it, right? Until where it makes sense for Asana. Asana's not that expensive; it's like $25 for the pro package or whatever. You can start like there's so many 30-day trials you can start and really maximize those platforms. I would recommend starting those CRM and automations and certain things, paid subscriptions once you have a pipeline built up to where it's like, okay, I'm calling, to your point, I'm calling these like 100 potential clients in this lane that I've done my research on, all in the spreadsheet. You're cold calling, right? You can't be scared of being hung up on. You have to overcome objections. You got to get to the root of it, right? So give your top three free recommendations for someone starting their consulting coaching business, and they want to be productive to keep organized.
Well, the first free thing I would say is to use ChatGPT to actually deep dive into who your target audience is, their actual pain points, and really do true market research because that helps with doing sales. That helps you with even knowing if you're going to do cold calls or if you're going to do content creation and to attract people, however you're going to market your business, be it inbound, outbound, whatever, the clearer you are on who you serve and the service you're having, like, and the reason why you want to do that is because then you can actually do market research and see if there are any people inside of your internal circle of influence that work in those fields or are can be potential, not even like you want them specifically to be a customer, but they can give you insight. They can be, or they just might be like, "Oh, I really wanna help with supporting daycare center owners with helping them did X, Y, and Z." If you ask people in your circle, "Do you know anybody that is?" Or go to a networking event. Get in front of the people that you can talk to that are those individuals to find out what their actual problems are to do that. So use ChatGPT, the free version, if first starting out, but please go in there and give it the right prompt. Like act like a business developer. You know, act like a business developer that helps with people with deep diving more into their target market, like, use this prompt, please, to help you, like, that's the start, and then you let it flow. Like, the more specific you are, the better you are able to help
Yep.
ChatGPT with giving you the answer you need. So use that for free. When I did first start, I would say, like, the first year, I just pretty much had pen and paper, to keep track of my calls. I did use, not QuickBooks, I did use, uh maybe Google Sheets? I mean, because 'cause it's been 15 years. But I know for sure at one point I was really just using pen and paper to keep track of my outbound sales calls because you don't want like, you have to know yourself. Like, I am one of those kind of people, if I feel overwhelmed, I don't get started. If I feel like things are junky and messy, I will focus on the junk and the mess before I get started. So that's one of the things that would be a free option is, like, if you just need to pull up a list, allow yourself the freedom to get rejected. Like when I first started, I did direct sales and I did direct sales and I worked for a corporation doing sales. Like if I got scared after the first two no's, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have gone that far inside of my position when I worked in corporate America. So I knew already it was a numbers game. It's law of averages. It's really just a law of averages. So I gave myself the freedom of like, okay, people are going to say no, and that's fine. I don't care. And I learn along the way. So what I did do is I kept things pen and paper when I was doing outreach. And then what I did do that was free is I did use Google Sheets, not Sheets, but Google Word or no, what is it? For the
Google
Word
Doc.
version of Google. There you go, Google Docs. I did end up using Google Docs, or Microsoft Word. Again, this is so long ago. Microsoft Word or Google Docs. One of those, I used to keep templates for my emails. That's how I first started with doing it because I knew that I needed to make sure I was reducing as many clerical errors. Also, with this advice, it depends on who you serve. Like I wouldn't say for a long period of time to use free stuff because the amount of time you're losing as well as potential errors. Like I remember sending someone an invoice I was using definitely Microsoft Word for, and I didn't change I was like, bro, like I think that that was what made me catapult into using something invoicing because I invoiced something. I changed the description manually, but I didn't change the price. After you send the invoice, I can say, "Oh, my bad." that should have had an extra zero. Like, you just gotta eat that. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about platforms, I'm always thinking to myself, the time that it takes me to do something. How do I get that back? Especially that's time is the most valuable thing you have with a new endeavor. And in the beginning, yes, you want to make sure that you're saving money, but you also have to be present to whom you're serving. How do you show up professionally? And how do you show up consistently, even if it's using some docs and templates to help you along the way? Because I mean, it can be very costly in the beginning from mistakes that are clerical. Like, clerical mistakes can be probably one of the biggest things that can happen when you're first starting a business. So um, don't cut too many corners in the beginning, because nothing sucks more than having to eat $1,000 or even $100 loss, like.
Trust me, I've had those situations though. Jess, I'm gonna have to have you on again because you gave so much game in 30 minutes. I feel like we gotta come back to give them bite-sized, tangible things that they can do.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information. AI, that's all you hear. That's all we hear. I work in tech, right? Like the day gig, right? And so like we're hearing all of this integration we're having on our side. And it's like, I love it because I'm like, yes, it's because it's a tool for me to leverage when I'm talking to my clients, right? So, uh, where can people find you? And I need you to commit right now to come on again to give some bite-sized game so they can chew on.
Yes, I'm definitely open to being on here again. The best way to connect with me, um, so I did delete Instagram from myself. I deleted a lot of different apps off my cell phone just because it's crazy right now. But Green Eyed Ambition, yeah, LinkedIn. Okay, that's less drama. You can definitely message me, Jesse Gary, Jesse Gary. There's rarely no one else that name should show that. Because usually it's double S's. I'm only one S. So you can find me on LinkedIn. But I also do have greeneyedanbition.com. And my email is on there as well. And you can still message me on Instagram and those other platforms, but it does take me a few days just because I do not stay active.
Just hit her up on LinkedIn, guys.
Yes, because LinkedIn will send me a message, say, "Hey, you got this message from this person." That's probably the better method.
Thank you,
You're
Jess.
welcome.